Hi, everyone. My name is Savannah Baltera, and I am the Director of Student Involvement and Activities. And today, for your RSO Leader Training, we are going to talk about leadership. And at any point while you're watching this, if you want to screenshot or take a picture of any of the screens of any of the resources that we're going to be providing, you should definitely feel free to do that. This presentation and other presentations that we've done and guides for RSO leaders can be found on the Involvement Center. And the link is on your screen. We'll go ahead and get started. So throughout this whole presentation, we're going to be talking about leadership. Leadership is not a position. Leadership is an entire, what's the word I'm looking for? It's an entire way to interact with people in a group that you are leading. But leadership does not mean that because you have this position, whether that's president or chair, that you are automatically showing leadership. Leadership is a characteristic, it is a trait. And the courage of leadership is giving the others a chance to succeed, even though you bear the responsibility for getting things done. So in this presentation, we're going to talk about delegation. We're going to talk about styles of leadership and how you can frame that for what works best for your organization. So like I had started to mention, leadership is a lot of different things. Leadership is a trait. A trait is a distinguishing quality of an individual. It's something like where you look at that person and you are like, they were born to be on the microphone and be energetic and inspiring, or they were born to, they show traits of patience, things like that. That's what a trait. And leadership can be a trait. Leadership can be an ability. That's something that you're born with or something that you can acquire through training and skill building. A skill is, again, a competency that is developed through accomplishing tasks effectively, doing things over and over again and getting better at them. Leadership can be a skill. Leadership can be a behavior, how leaders act. Do you inspire others? Do you enable others? Do you build relationships? That's a behavior. Leadership can be a relationship. That's the back and forth between leaders and followers. And then overall leadership is an influence process. Leaders direct attentions to influencing others so that they can achieve something. So leadership is about giving your followers what they need in order to get things done. And in this case, on behalf of your student organization. Leadership can be all of these things, or one of these things, or a combo of them. So why is leadership so hard to define? Why do we struggle when you may ask someone, what is leadership? And that's because everyone looks at leadership differently. So in this training, we are looking at it from all of those things I just listed, but you may ask someone else and they may define it differently. The other thing is that sometimes when you ask people what they think leadership is, they are able to give more examples of what poor leadership is than effective leadership. But that's okay too, because sometimes we learn from being in an organization with a poor leader. Sometimes we can then learn what effective leadership is because of those bad experiences. And then the action of leadership is the hardest part, actually putting into practice, leading a group. That's what people remember most. And that is what is the hardest part. So for today, we're going to use this definition of leadership. Leadership is the ability to motivate a group of people toward a common goal. It's about making things better. It's about your followers. It's about your relationship with those followers. And it's about inspiration and empowerment. So let's talk about followers. So followers are your organization's members. They are what make your organization happen. And you likely perhaps started as a follower. Maybe you came in as a first year or second year student and you joined an organization and there was a leader. So you start to build your leadership style based on your experience as a follower. So then when you become the leader, you have to start thinking about those followers. You have to remember what your experience was like what were you inspired by your leader? And then how are you going to then shape how you are as a leader to your followers? So you have to always step back into the follower role to be an effective leader. So here are some questions that you can ask yourself and then you can even bring this to your organization. You want to think about, who are your members? Like, who are you existing to serve? Is that all UNLV students? Is it a small subset of UNLV students based on common interest or identity? You have to ask those questions for yourself. Also, what about others at UNLV? Are you also serving faculty and staff? Are you serving alumni? Or look at the greater Las Vegas community. Are you a service-based organization? Are you serving that broader Las Vegas community? And so once you're able to answer those questions, the next thing you need to ask yourself is, how do you center your efforts of your organization based on who you're serving? So if you can answer those, that can give you a good framework for starting your leadership style. So let's talk about leadership versus management. This is an important distinction. So up on the screen is, one side is a picture of a person carrying a flag with people following right behind them. They're all in a group, and they are going together. And then on the right side is a screen that says management, and there's a person standing up at the front of a room, pointing to things on a screen, and people sitting at a lower level and watching them. But there's definitely a difference in level there. And so that's important when we talk about what leadership is versus management. So management is when there is a boss, one might say a leader, who is telling people what to do. It's very like self-focused only. It's about them. They want to accomplish this. They want to make sure that this gets done. They need to look good. They need to reach a goal, but it's very like self. So there is like a manager, and then they are telling these people what to do. The difference, I'm sure you are already thinking of the differences based on what I've talked about leadership so far. The difference is that leadership is not about the leader. Leadership is about the goals of the organization. There needs to be someone who is the leader, who is in charge, who is keeping the group on track. Absolutely, because if you don't have a clear direction and clear goals, sometimes things don't get done. So there needs to be someone who is the leader. But the key in leadership is that you are still a collective group. It's about the leader, it's about the followers, it's about the needs, the goals of the organization, and all of that is on an equal playing field. So that's the core difference between leadership and management. And as a leader in your RSO organization, you need to think about what is going to work best for you and what kind of leader do you want to be. So let's talk about different styles of leadership. And so as I go through these, think about ones that resonate with you so that you can explore them further after this fairly short presentation. We want you to take what you hear here and then, research more and try to figure out what kind of leader you are already or striving to be, or skills that you want to build on. So the first style is leaders who inspire a shared vision. These leaders look towards the future. They have like a big goal way in the future, and they are going to try to get their followers there, their organization there, by getting them excited about that big future, new possibilities. They need to build common ground to get others to also be excited by that vision. They are always like thinking about the vision and refining it to make it unique. Why is the work we're doing right now, maybe we won't see that vision happen in this academic year, but let's think about 2 academic years from now. And what are we doing now in our everyday that's going to then get us there in a couple of years? So they're future thinking, forward thinking, excited about the possibilities. The next style is empowering others. So this needs to include the team in most of your decision makings. So this is, this kind of leader is not going to dictate all the decisions for themselves and then tell people. They're going to get people together. These people may use their own expertise and judgment for the betterment of the organization, but they're going to get their members to buy in and get commitment before a decision is made, because that makes people feel valued as a member of the organization versus feeling like value as just an individual. They see everyone together making these decisions. And the big thing about empowering others and those kinds of leaders is that they do not micromanage. Like they want to be able to then put the decisions, the power, the motivation to the followers so that they can then be a little bit more hands-off and everyone knows their role and is working together for the goal of the organization. But when you're talking about goals, you want to talk about SMART goals. You've probably heard this before, whether it's in a presentation or sometimes in a class. SMART goals are specific, they are measurable, they are attainable, they are relevant, and they are timely. So when you are thinking about the goals of your organization, whether that's short-term goals in one semester, one academic year, or long-term goals 2-3 years in the future, you want to make sure that your goals that you are setting fall into each of these categories. I'm not going to go into all 5 of them super specifically right now, but this would be a great time to take a screenshot of this because there's so much on Google, on books, on websites that you can learn about how to do these SMART goals that are specific, that are measurable, that aren't too far, in the future so that they're not attainable. Because the last thing you want to do is make goals that your members never see to completion. You want to make sure that there are goals that they can accomplish in the short term so that they feel like they did something. So those are important things that you need to remember as a leader. So as you're, watching these before the beginning of whatever semester we're in, fall or spring, you want to ask yourselves these questions. So as an organization, what are you looking to accomplish in the short term and the long term? You want to talk about, is one of your goals to recruit new members? We want to make sure that we have those group of first and second year students so that when eventually you all graduate, which is the ultimate goal, you're setting up your organization for success. You also want to talk about the larger UNLV community. Do you have goals that will help make the larger campus and our community better? And then you can think about program specific goals. So are you looking to create new events or initiatives? But then also, are you looking to improve on your existing traditions? I believe you need to have both. I think it's great when organizations have traditions and have events that they do every year because organization members can look forward to that. Students can look forward to that. So that's really great. But our traditions can always be improved and changed based on what's happening at UNLV, in Las Vegas, in the world. And then it's important for organizations also to still create new events and initiatives so that there's always new things happening and you're not at the status quo. And so we want you to, as a leader at UNLV and in your organization, to challenge the status quo. We want you to avoid doing things the way you've always done them, just because that's how you've always done them. You want to encourage your members to think outside the box. If right away members are like, that seems hard, that seems like too much work, dig into why they're saying that. They might have a legitimate reason why they feel like it's too much work, but are there then barriers that you as the leader can take away? Can you delegate more so that you can challenge those barriers and structures in your organization to move forward and not just keep it the same? And the process of shaking things up in your organization can breathe new life into you as a leader, your organization, and your members. Let's talk about delegation. This is hard for a lot of people, me included. I'm sure you've heard the phrase, it would be faster if I did it myself. It will take too much time for me to teach someone how to do it, so I'll just do it myself. That's not sustainable. You might be able to do that in the short term or on one project or on one event. You might be able to do that. You might be able to just take it on yourself, but you're not gonna be able to do that forever. So you have to learn to delegate. So here are some examples, and definitely take a screenshot of this so you can remember it. Examples of things to delegate, things that you as the leader of your organization do not have to take on for yourself. If you have an executive board, an executive team, you could delegate these things to them, or you could delegate things to your general members, because the more you delegate, these kinds of tasks to your members, the more buy-in they're going to have for the organization, because they're going to feel important, and they are important. So you have to give them tasks to make them feel important. Things like creating agendas, making room reservations, scheduling, minutes, taking attendance, social media, pictures, celebrating birthdays or other important milestones, recruitment, risk management, safety, facilitating team building activities. Maybe you assign someone a team building activity every week, so it's someone different. Only you will know what you should delegate based on the strengths of your team members and the things that excite them. So when you say, like, who wants to do social media, and you see 6 hands go up, but you know you can only give one person that, then ask those people, like, well, if you can't do social media, what does excite you? And then delegate them something based on that. So now let's talk about the not as fun stuff. Conflict. Conflict is unavoidable. There will always be conflict in a group, in any organization. So the key is how you're going to successfully manage that conflict. That's really what shows the strength of a leader. So here are just some tips. Encourage members to be open and honest in their communication. Make sure that they aren't holding it in. Have a plan. Talk about it when there isn't conflict, about how you want members to feel safe coming to you or to the advisor, to be honest about how they're feeling. Prioritize in-person or video communication as much as you can over text or emails or GroupMe, because as we all know, the tone and context in just a quick text is very different than talking to someone in person, face-to-face, or talking to someone with video over, because you can at least see them, get context clues and those kinds of things. Put the success of the organization over personal incompatibilities. So if you have 2 members that just aren't getting along, you don't have to force people to be friends. Not everyone's going to have a good relationship with every single person, but be mature enough and strong enough to put those personal things aside for the success of the organization. And don't let the entire group suffer the consequences when just a very small, either 2 people or very small group aren't getting along. Don't let the group suffer. Work that conflict out, come to a mutual understanding so we can move forward as a organization. The next thing is that if, as the leader in an organization, you have to be impartial, but it's okay if you can't be. And if you can't be impartial and help mediate conflict, find a mediator that can, whether that's another member, your advisor, or you can even come to student involvement activities staff, and we can help you through that process as well. The other thing we want to talk about is the importance of valuing diverse opinions. So organizations are the strongest when everyone comes from a diverse set of lived experiences and viewpoints. You don't want an organization that everyone carries the same identities, has the same background, has the same experiences. And even if you started the group because of a common interest, there is still so many layers of intersecting identities and other interests that your organization should have, because that just makes your whole organization better. Everyone's ideas deserve to be valued, respected, and supported. You want to hear those different perspectives because that helps you grow as a person. And as the leader in your organization, you should set those standards of respecting others' viewpoints at the beginning. You want to have those ground rules, have that framework so that there's never any question as you're moving through the year what those expectations are. And having differing perspectives can produce productive conversations if they happen. So you don't want to just shut down discussions that maybe there's different viewpoints. You want to have them so that people can grow and learn and be more well-rounded, inclusive people. So here are some other leadership skills that you should consider, especially if you're looking to go to other trainings and learn other things. These are just some things to think about and think about your skill level. How to successfully run a meeting, project management, setting priorities, fostering the strengths of others, setting clear expectations, setting clear open lines of communication, and then how you're going to hold others accountable when people aren't meeting those expectations. And then my big plug for working with your advisor. So every organization has an advisor, and every advisor is unique and has a different style. So I can't sit here and tell you exactly how you should work with your advisor, because that depends on who you are as a leader and who your advisor is. But here are some things to put on your next meeting or one-on-one with your advisor to talk about. What are those communication expectations? How do they want to be communicated with? And how do they want you to give them information? Remember that advisors are there to support and challenge you. So you don't want an advisor who's just a yes person, who's just like, yep, sounds good. Yep, sure. Yep. You want them to ask those questions, to challenge you, to have you look at things differently. So be open to that. Understand and respect their boundaries. That goes back to expectations, and then lean into their strengths and expertise. So if you have an advisor who works on campus, for example, someone who works in career services, then lean into that. Have them do a workshop on resume building if that's their expertise. So talk to them about what the skills and expertise they have outside of being your advisor, and use that to your advantage. Here are some examples of when you're having that mutual expectations conversation. These are just some of the questions that you can ask. Another really great thing to screenshot right now. How involved will they be? What will they attend? How will you communicate? How do you like to receive feedback? How do they like to receive feedback? And then what does success in that advising relationship look like? Talk about that at the beginning so that you can work towards getting that. So here's some reflection questions to consider as we wrap up our time here. After you go back and think about your leadership style and the things that you're good at, what your traits and abilities and skills are, think about, why is your organization important to you? Why do you put your time and energy into it? What kind of leader do you want to be? And then how will you take your experience to push your organization to the next level, to reach your vision of the organization? Think about the leaders who come before you. How do they inspire you? What did they do that you can then incorporate? Or what did they do poorly that you want to make sure you don't repeat? And then how will you center the needs of your organization over your own needs? So how will you make sure to, when you come into every meeting, you're thinking about, what does the organization need and not what do I need as an individual? So that's all. I'll put that one back up. That's all the time we have today. Like I said, we just want you to leave this short training with just some ideas. We want you to process this, to make notes. And we just want to set you up for a super successful semester. We're so proud of you, so excited that you have chosen to be a leader in your organization, and the success of the over 400 student organizations here at UNLV wouldn't be possible without student leaders like you. And so we just want you to know that. And thanks so much.